So tonight we're going to talk about impaired driving, but there'll also be a little traffic safety conversation in this too, just to make sure that we're not so blind to think that the only thing the Sheriff's Office is concerned with is just impaired driving. Let's do the statistics and we'll get to that. Okay, here's the boring part. There's 116,591 licensed drivers in Tennessee. That was as of December 31st last year. In Sumner County, rather. 131 impaired driving crashes were attributed to Sumner County. Now, the problem with that statistic is that the state and federal authorities have not yet caught up with impaired driving. They still only focus on alcohol driving. So that's actually an alcohol number right there. 131 alcohol crashes 2014. But we as a county have a great rank as 95 counties, so we're doing pretty good for a county our size, 160,000 people, 116,000 licensed drivers. We, in this county, had 4 alcohol impaired driving fatalities last year, and we're 69th in the state. Then here's what we did as law enforcement in the county. We arrested 902 DUIs, and at the Sheriff's Office we arrested 224 of those. And we had a 96% conviction rate, which is really good. How did we manage to get 96%, and how did we manage to find 224 impaired drivers? There's 41 deputies in the patrol division that are primarily responsible for catching the actual impaired driver. 39 of those have had the basic DUI and standardized field sobriety testing course. Then out of those 39, 18 have been to a course called ARIDE. That's Advanced Roadside Impaired Driving Enforcement. That's where things start moving away from just looking at alcohol impaired drivers, and start looking at drug driving also. And then we, for a department our size, are blessed to have 5 drug recognition experts. And a drug recognition expert can spend some time with a suspected drug driver, and I can tell you to an almost absolute degree of certainty what substances that person is impaired by. Without a chemical test, we can spend 45 minutes together, and I can tell you what category of drug that person is impaired by. It's very remarkable. Sounds like voodoo. I thought that myself for the longest time. But for the past 5 years, I have been through a couple of hundred evaluations here and field certifications in Phoenix. And I can tell you that the drug recognition expert program works. So, for a department our size with just 41 deputies in patrol, for us to have 5 DREs is amazing. Nashville's only got 4 active DREs right now. Chattanooga's got 4. So we're doing good as far as catching impaired drivers. Here's what else we do. Checkpoints and saturations. Right now we are in the middle of a Governor's Highway Safety Office grant year. Last year, or this grant year, our award was $24,476. That money is awarded to the Sheriff's Office, and here we spend it on almost equal half and half split. Half on equipment, half on training and overtime. So that money bought 7 video cameras of a much greater quality than we are accustomed to around here. It bought 4 radars, and the rest is spent in overtime on checkpoints and saturations. So, a checkpoint, everybody been to a checkpoint? Great. Anybody get arrested? That's good news too. Everybody's familiar with a checkpoint. We set up roadside, we spend a few seconds with each driver passing through, make sure that they're not too impaired to drive, and then they're on their way. Saturation is where several deputies or cars, whatever, are concentrated on an area of known violation or known crash. alcohol related. So using a Titan system, a crash reporting system like Eddie was talking about earlier, we can tell where all the crashes are occurring based on their coordinates. And that's where we try to focus our resources. New Year's Eve, we put a checkpoint in Saturation and Oak Grove because over the course of the previous 6 months, there were 13 alcohol or drug. We have some capability to check for that. Drug impaired crashes within about 2 miles of Oak Grove. If you drove a nail right in the middle of Oak Grove, went 2 miles around that, we had 13 impaired driving crashes, and one of those was fatal, and one of them was vehicular assault. So that's where we had our checkpoint. Didn't arrest one drunk person at the checkpoint, but as soon as we closed it down, we arrested 2. That's exactly right. We left there, we went up Fairfield Road, Newby Road, and caught one, and I can't remember where the other one came from. But anybody have questions about checkpoints? Everybody's always mad about checkpoints.
In Cumberland County several years ago, the sheriff's office there put drug testing at the at 5 miles from there, and then 1 mile from there was an exit.
Right.
And everybody that was impaired obviously was taking that exit, and they were waiting on them obviously there. It's my understanding that was illegal.
Absolutely. They got in a ton of trouble because when you get to the bottom of the ramp, the cops were.
Yeah.
So they will find no more of that.
I thought it was a great idea.
It was a great idea until the ACLU got involved, you know.
Yeah. That's right.
Why do they have to announce that y'all are going to be doing this on the news?
Well, because the Supreme Court decided that what the checkpoint is it's a seizure. There's a Fourth Amendment violation that's in progress. But the Supreme Court has decided that it's necessary. There was a case, I think it was an old case, 1956, Abrams, I believe. It came out, and the language in it was, the slaughter on our highway now rivals the carnage known only on the battlefield, is what it said. And that's real close. And so as part of that case, and another case that came out of Michigan, they decided that we had to do a few things before we set up a checkpoint. We have to, me, as the patrol sergeant, I can't decide anything about the checkpoint. A command staff member decides about the checkpoint. So I'll give them that pin map of where everything's going bad, and then they'll decide whether it's going to be at Oak Grove or Beach or Cascade Springs or wherever. They'll say it needs to be in this area. So the command staff makes that decision, sends it back to me. Once they have made a decision about where it's going to go, then we have to announce it to the media. Reason being is to eliminate fear and surprise of the driver that might encounter the checkpoint.
Now, unlike seatbelts, that does affect the other person if you're driving under the influence.
Right?
Okay.
So we're eliminating fear and surprise. And when you before you get to the checkpoint, you'll see the signs all the way up the road because we don't want you to be fearful or surprised when you get there. Anything else?
That's a shame. That's really a shame.
So if they just cut a U and go back the other way, can you just take out after them?
Well, you can take out after them.
But they have to commit, they have to break the law before you can pull them over.
That's exactly right. The checkpoint has to be designed to where they can make the U-turn and go without committing a traffic violation. And that's fine. And is there going to be a car follow you? Probably so. If you're drunk, I'm sorry, you're going to probably get arrested. But we're not going to trap you in that. You're going to be able to turn around legally and carry on. And if nothing happens, then that's it for you. Yeah, that's easy.
Don't do it.
Okay. So, then, we're going to do this tonight. Usually about 5 times a year, me or somebody else is at a high school or at a more community kind of events, but out there with the fatal vision goggles, the golf cart, and before we do that program, we're in the classroom with the kids. They're already kind of getting primed up about police. It's usually in a criminal justice class. So when I'm in police week, here we come. And so we have a classroom for that. Then we move out to Fatal Vision, where they get to, if they haven't already, experience impairment at several different levels, and then try to function and drive a little bit with the Fatal Vision goggles on. Tennessee teen driving. We, out of the whole state, are right now second in second place. There's kind of like a competition, if you will, in a program that Governor Shawty Safety Office runs called Tennessee Safe Teen Driving. And what that is we're fortunate that we've got an SRO at every high school, so they can carry the program to the schools. Putnam County always beats far out of us, but we still do a lot here. They bring a simulator from the Highway Patrol. We're not going to have to do that anymore after tomorrow, but they bring a simulator from the Highway Patrol. They do things outside. There are certain milestones that they can achieve by posting signage on the school lots. They have each other. This is strange, but when you pull it into the parking lots of the schools, the students will catch each other, either doing right or wrong, and distribute a dum-dum to those that don't have their seatbelt on, or something else to those that do.
Smarties, the ones that are.
Exactly, there you go. And then some of the schools let me put tricky messages on their message boards. And we hold at least 3 mock crashes a year, depending on, that one there is at Beach. The theater students get to dress up and paint each other up, and we bring out some wrecked cars, and cut people out, land lights, do the whole thing. And then somebody always dies, and so hopefully we get some kind of reaction out of that. Signage again, we borrow the Get Nailed car and leave it at our high schools for a week or so at a time, and at some community events when we can get our hands on it. And here's why we do it. The top picture there, I take a lot of pictures, and the top picture there is my favorite picture that I've ever taken, because everything about safe driving, well, there are areas where we're judged through the year. One of those is speed, one's impaired driving, one is occupant protection, which is wearing your seatbelt. And the new one is now distracted driving. So all of those things were involved in this crash. We got chasing this truck right here, and this is this guy's head, and so he was all drunk, so he's got his booze here, and since his head's in the floorboard, I guess you can see that he didn't have his seatbelt on.
So attached to his body?
Yes, and we've got his phone here, and when he hit this brick wall, he was running about 93, 94 miles an hour. So that is all traffic safety right there. He was giving a ride to a lady right over here right before he started getting into trouble, and so he died, but now she's just paralyzed from here down. Just kind of a guy she knew that she thought she was getting a ride out of. So ended up being real drunk. And then these people here were going to work on Davis Pike one morning, and lo and behold, here comes this other guy, his home, it's all messed up on prescription pills and whatnot. And just runs over and kills them. They're still in the car in this picture. There's 2 people in that car still. Okay. So when we can't educate, then we have to do some DUI detection and standardized field sobriety testing. We got a little gift from the legislature 2 years ago when they changed around how the DUI statute was written. Now from this point forward, I want you to not be, many of us have friends and loved ones and family members who have had a drug or alcohol problem. I'm not making fun of them. I'm very sorry that they had that. I know it's a struggle. So if I say anything that might be offensive, it's not intended to be. It's just realism. Please don't get offended, because last year, you know, that lady got mad and left. And I got in trouble. Anyway, so when we got this gift from the legislature, take that. I'm like, well, I'm sorry. And then the next drug we got to, well, I'm on that too. And it just got bigger and bigger, and she got mad at me because I kept naming her drugs. So we got to get from the legislature that says that someone off on the drive, on highway, shopping center, trailer park, or any other location generally frequented by the public. Here's where it gets extra good. Y'all know DUI just isn't an alcohol thing anymore. And it's not just a marijuana thing or a cocaine thing. Now it's a pill thing too. And now it's a synthetic drug thing to go along with that. So to eliminate all those arguments, the legislature said that if you take any substance that will deprive you of the fairness of mind and control that you would otherwise normally possess, you have committed a DUI. Yes, ma'am.
Does that include being tired, overtired,
No.
sleep? It doesn't?
You would just be reckless or negligent if you fell asleep.
Especially your seatbelt off.
We wouldn't have to talk about it. 'Cause you'd be
I won't leave. I'm
So, it's great for us to have that language in there because we cross paths with synthetic drugs. It's going down now since the state's getting rid of synthetic drugs. But,
What's a synthetic drug?
well, if
I'm
we go over to Pakistan, there's a man there that's got a big pot, and he's throwing stuff in there and mixing it up. And it turns out, some of the stuff they make up will impair you. And it's not a drug that you've ever heard of before. It's not marijuana or cocaine. It's something with some chemicals that somebody mixed together that
Like
mess
the
you
meth
up.
flakes and stuff?
Well, no, meth is a drug. It has a drug category. It is not a synthetic of any other drug. That's right. The packets that they were selling. K2, Spice.
You heard on the news of the market.
Right.
That's a synthetic drug.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, there's phases of DUI detection, and the first one of those is vehicle in motion. You've all, or most of you I'm sure, have gotten accidentally behind an impaired driver before, and so you know that they will weave or swerve or cross lane lines, go slower than the speed limit, brake erratically, make wide turns, signal inconsistent with turn, or do you actually see that driver drinking alcohol? That's one of my favorite clues. Takes the guesswork out of it for me. Or that the driver appears drunk. So, once I'm out there on the road doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and some of these things happen, then I start to think that maybe that driver might be impaired. And hopefully, after I mush enough of these reasonable suspicions together here, I'm going to pull that driver over. And the next thing that I'm going to do is personal contact with the driver. And here's where I'm going to smell in, and I'm going to notice, or her, what their eyes look like, whether they're red, glassy, or bloodshot, what their speech sounds like. The driver will usually tell you how much they've had to drink. How much have they had to drink?
2.
That's exactly right. That's what it said. Oftentimes I can see something in the car. More times than not, there's a masking odor. If I walk up to your car window and you have a cigarette and the cherry on it has been lit for about 5 seconds before I walked up to the window, something is going on. If I walk up and it smells like what?
Cough drops.
I was thinking like perfume, but I usually say it differently. Then that is a masking odor in the car. And so usually something's going on. Or it happens, you know, sometimes you just get in a hurry. So I've been up and met with them. I've smelled the scene and heard things. And so now it's time for some pre-arrest screening. I've decided in my mind that maybe this driver's going to need a little bit of extra checking out before I allow him to continue on down the road. So I'll ask for his driver's license and registration and insurance card. This is very difficult for the impaired driver to gather those 3 items. Those are the standard items, right? When y'all get pulled over, if you get pulled over.
Oh, I have them ready for you.
Exactly, man, I'm not sure about that. I didn't believe it.
Horse and buggy.
I'll ask somebody what time it is without looking at their watch or the clock. Very, very hard. They'll be off 3 or 4 hours or more, oftentimes, with a super impaired driver. Or they have a nonsensical travel plan. I'll ask where they're headed. They'll tell me, and that will be in the opposite direction. So, what night? Sunday night. I think it's Sunday night. Anyway, behind this truck, I've got some weaving in the lane. They turn on their hazard lights for a few minutes, they turn the hazard lights off. We weave around a little more, then they pull in McDonald's of all things. When I walk up the window, what do the cigarettes look like? Especially lit. So something's probably going on in here. I say, where are y'all headed to? And they said, back home. And I said, but home is back the other way. What are you doing at McDonald's? Oh, we just pulled in here because we're going to turn around and go back the other way. Go home. Well, we just come from home. So, the nonsensical travel plan. And I'll usually task them with an alphabet task. I'll say, how far did you go to school? We've already established their education, and if they made it past about the 6th grade, I'll ask them if they learned the alphabet. They'll tell me yes, usually. And I'll ask them just to recite the alphabet from C to W at their own pace. C to W. And you would think that I had asked them to try to decipher War and Peace for me.
Yeah.
That's probably hard for y'all to believe, but that is a task that's insurmountable to the impaired person. I would say out of 400 and how many I'm at, and I've been using the alphabet, C to W, almost that entire time. That's probably the task that gets them every time. And it's not standardized and it's not validated, but it puts me on the right track because I know how reliable something that simple is. I'll ask them to count backward from 63 to 32 at their own pace. And also very, very difficult for the impaired person. And that's when we start into standardized field sobriety testing. What standardized tests are, these are the things that y'all have all seen at roadside, okay? There's a battery of free, standardized, and validated tests that the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has studied enough to be pretty certain that these are the ones we want to be using. These are the ones that will predict most the impaired driver. And so they're very reliable if you use them and administer them and evaluate them like you're supposed to. And that's what we spend a lot of time trying to get right, because we want to arrest the drunk people and we don't want to, we want to arrest the impaired people and we don't want to arrest the not impaired people. Okay? So we try to hone this down to a fine skill here where we're getting all the right people off the road. And here's what they are. Do I have to click the start?
Mine didn't play earlier.
Well, I checked mine before I came in and it was working.
I was gonna say, it's lazy, I mean, it was tired.
Well, as usual. Okay, let me tell you about the test that many of y'all, that y'all may not have enough experience with. It's called the horizontal gaze nystagmus test, all right? And what that is, all of us have eyes in this room. And when you look from side to side, right now, is anybody here drunk? Good. Right now, as you look from side to side, your eyes are just smoothly moving from side to side. Okay? So when I'm doing this, my eyes are smoothly following the end of my finger. When you introduce drugs, certain drugs, like alcohol, for instance, into your system, the ability of your eyes to track smoothly is retarded, okay? And so when it does that, nystagmus is created. It slows down the ability of the eyes, and so there's this jerking that begins. And if this video would work, I would love for you to see this. But it's most like a marble rolling across sandpaper. Can y'all imagine what a marble rolling across sandpaper is doing? Or windshield wipers on a dry windshield, okay? So I get out with the impaired driver, put my stimulus up here, and I'm gonna say, now follow the tip with your eyes only, and hold your head still. And as my finger, or I use a light at night, but as my stimulus is moving from side to side up here, I can see that distinct jerking as the eyes move from side to side. And y'all can certainly see it. So this is a 3-part little test here. I check for the lack of smooth pursuit. Then I'll hold it over here for 4 seconds, and there'll be a distinct and sustained nystagmus at maximum deviation. Check the other side, and then there'll be an onset of nystagmus where it just starts prior to 45 degrees. It's the best test ever. NHTSA says it's the best test, and I can tell you it's the best test. If I can detect nystagmus in your eyes at roadside, you are at or above a 0.08. That's just how it works. Now, there's 47 kinds of nystagmus. That's how many there are. Most of those are debilitating. Most of those make it where people can't hardly function and are very rare. There used to be a lady that worked at Mapco behind the sheriff's office that had rescue nystagmus all the time. Her eyes, just went all over the place. But it wasn't while she was trying to track a stimulus. And I would never try with her because her eyes were just wild at all times. But super reliable test. Love it ever since I started using it. Can't go wrong when it comes to nystagmus. Okay, so we'll skip through these since they're not working and move right into the good old walking turn. This is what everybody has seen at roadside for years. The second oldest test on the book. What this is, and I assume this video is not going to work either. But I'll get the driver out of the car, and I will determine that they're not disabled, or ask if they're disabled, and I will ask them to put their left foot on the line. Now I'll ask them to put their right foot right in front of it, heel to toe, their arms down next to their sides, and maintain that position until I get done with my instructions. They'll say they understand, and stand there, hopefully. This is very hard for the impaired driver, just to stand like this for 20 more seconds. I will say, when I get done with my instructions, I'd like for you to walk 9 steps, heel to toe, down this line, keeping your arms down next to your side, counting each step out loud. When you get to the 9th step, just leave your lead foot on the line, take a series of small steps, turn, and walk 9 steps back. So it should look something like this. 1, 2, 3, all the way out to 9. They'll leave their lead foot on the line, take a series of small steps around, and walk 9 steps back. 1, 2, 3, all the way back out to 9. That's how it's supposed to look. But these are the 8 standardized and validated clues that can result during the walk and turn test. If they start too soon, if they can't maintain their balance during the instruction phase, they use their arms for balance, step off the line, miss heel to toe, take the wrong number of steps, and make an improper turn. If the suspected impaired driver, exhibits 2 or more of these clues, then that is where 2 or more of these is, we don't use the word fail, but that renders a likelihood that that person is at or above a 0.08. So we move to the last test. Move to the last test, one leg stand. Everybody's seen this one too. I get the driver out, or we're already out, and I say, all right, put your feet together, and your arms down next to your sides. Maintain that position until I get done with these instructions, you understand? And hopefully they do. And I'll say, in a moment, when I ask you to begin, all I want you to do is just raise the foot of your choice off the ground about 6 inches. You'll keep both legs straight, and your raised foot parallel to the ground. With your arms down next to your sides, I just want you to count, or I want you to count out loud. 1001, 1002, 1003, and so on until I tell you to stop. And I will have my watch, and when 30 seconds has elapsed, I'll tell them to stop. Those 4 right there are the clues. If they put their foot down, sweating, hop, or use their arms for balance, they've given me one of the standardized and validated clues for that test. If they display 2 or more of those, there is a likelihood that that person is at or above a 0.08. And so, after the whole battery is over with, if they give me 2 or more clues on each of those tests, then it's actually 4 on HGN, but they give me 4 clues on walk and turn, 2 clues on the 4 clues on HGN, 2 clues on walk and turn, 2 clues on one leg stand. The battery test is 91% accurate, and I will tell you that it's usually better than 91%. That number there comes from San Diego field study in '98, when the national trend was moving down to 0.08 rather than 0.10.
What if they refuse to do the test?
And that's when we moved back to all those things we looked at before. What got them pulled over, what they looked like, smelled like, what I heard when I went up to the window. Tests aren't required. Tests are to the benefit of the driver. A lot of people go out and have a couple of drinks, and then they hit the road. I don't want to use the word that's okay, but it's not against the law to have a couple of drinks and hit the road. And so, if I go out and have 2 beers with supper, and then I go to Logan's, I have 2 beers, and I decide to drive on home, and I get pulled over for a headlight or taillight or something, and the officer smells alcohol on me, and maybe my eyes don't look exactly right, then I probably want to get out of the car and show this guy that I'm not too impaired to drive. Because the tests are to the benefit of the driver just as much as they are the police. So, if they don't want to do the test, all right. Then I go back to, were they weaving, drifting, speed too slow, whatever. I go up, I smell alcohol, their eyes look bad, they have nonsensical travel plan. They say, well, I have beer, but it's none of your business, get away from me. I say, okay, well, would you like to get out of the car, try some of these tests or tasks? Would you like to sit in the car and do some tests or tasks? Whatever. I said, no, I'm not doing anything. I always heard, my lawyer told me never do anything. And that's when I say, all right, well, hop out, let's go. And they'll be like, where are we going? Well, we're going to jail. Well, can I still do the test? I said, no, you want to? It's up to you, sir. And I'm not usually that smart, but for demonstration purposes here, we're going
I know, just
to liven this up a little bit. So, it's up to you. It doesn't matter.
You can't, based on those initial tests, then you can't take them to jail.
Absolutely.
And you don't get in trouble for skipping those steps.
No, I mean, there's only some. I work off. I have to operate off
If
the
you
evidence.
get them
that I
there, they
have.
were just tired. They weren't under the influence of something, then.
Well, in just a minute, they're going to have the opportunity to show me that they're not too impaired to drive when I offer them a chemical test.
Okay.
Now, I don't know why you put yourself through
No.
going to jail before. I'd rather stand like this for 30 seconds than go to jail all night long. But whatever, that's some people.
I was going to say,
Well, my mother was in the hospital. That's why I keep coming back to this tired thing. My mother was in the hospital at 3:30 in the morning, and I hadn't slept in 48 hours. And I'm trying to drive home, and I'm like, I'm going to get stopped. I mean, no, I'm going to get stopped.
Did you smell like booze?
No, did not.
You seem like a nice lady.
Denny would pull Joe.
Now, if I had had a drink, I'd have had a designated driver.
Well, I'm glad we appreciate it. Okay, so 91% accurate. But what happens if you happen to get arrested? So you get out, and I decide that you should probably get arrested. Then I am required to offer you a chemical test. And so I will read you this long form called the implied consent form. What Tennessee's implied consent law says is that any person who operates a vehicle on the highway in Tennessee is deemed to have given consent to a chemical test to determine the alcohol and/or drug content of that person's blood. Well, Tennessee gives you the right to refuse to submit that chemical test. And up until 2 years ago, we would say, okay, thank you, and you would write refuse on there, and we'd take you to jail. And we would never have a chemical test to go along with everything we'd seen. Well, Then the Supreme Court of Tennessee got involved with a case and decided, you know what, this is silly. Y'all should be able to do search warrants for blood. And so we've been doing search warrants for blood. And I know that sounds a little bit rougher than I like things to go, but probably right. I want all the evidence I can possibly gather. And so, oftentimes, I'd say maybe half the refusals I get anymore, once I say, I'm going to go get a search warrant for your blood, they say, okay, well, let's just go. And the others, they make me get the search warrant for the blood. So I go down and I get the search warrant, and it takes an extra 20 minutes, and then I'm like, all right, we're going to the hospital to get this blood. And then they sit down and stick their arm out. You know, I at least want to. There's no wrestling match. They're just like, well, all right, you got a piece of paper, you can have the blood now. So, go and get the blood. Now, any questions about, this is usually a sticking point, talking about blood draw. Great. There are in Tennessee now mandatory factors for when I'm required to get a blood